Sorry this video is so late. I normally intend to get it out earlier, and I will normally cover the full main card in my prediction videos. So Danny Silva's the first fighter on the card. He's got decent striking. He is a striker predominantly, but his wrestling and grappling they can pass. But he often looks for the early finish as he has a really short gas tank. I'm not sure how he does in later rounds. His gas tank's quite low. He often, slows down in later rounds. And he's got really low level striking defense, often open to getting hit, just going in with his chin up. He's quite a kill or be killed guy, but he's always in dogfights. Now, Danny Silva will be taking on Kevin Vallejos, a guy with a very similar style to him, which is quite a good matchup for Kevin Vallejos, as he is one of the most powerful and, fun to watch and overall, best prospects, I think, in the featherweight division. He has high-level striking and a massive KO power. His wrestling's passable, but he's got really good BJJ. His boxing's overall crisp with really good footwork and head movement. And yeah, as I said, he's often capable of finding the chin and putting someone out. He's still undefeated. Undefeated in the UFC. His only loss being to Gene Silva on the Contender Series, which, John Silva, that's a hard fight to win. And he did give him a tough fight, only losing by split decision, I think it was. It might have been unanimous. But, he gave Gene Silva his hardest fight yet, which has aged really, really well. And I'm fully bought on Kevin Vallejos. Now, for my prediction, I think Kevin Vallejos will get the round 2 TKO. I think Danny Silva's chin will hold up for a round, and I think in the second round, Kevin Vallejos drops him and finishes him with a ground and pound. I think Danny Silva doesn't really have many paths to victory. He could wrestle him, but this is the prediction. Alright, so the next fighter on the card is Neil Magny. Neil Magny's a gatekeeper, to be honest. He's the biggest gatekeeper in the UFC. And he's a win-to-loss fighter now, He's pretty washed. He's got a decent style. He's pretty well-rounded, but his last 2 losses have been by knockout. And before that, he was barely beating Mike Mallet, till he knocked him out in the 3rd round, I think it was. So that kind of saved him, but he's pretty well-rounded, decent striking, decent wrestling. But he has got a questionable chin, I think, after those 2 losses. And he will be taking on Zaleski dos Santos, another, gatekeeper in the welterweight division. He's got really flashy, capoeira striking. That's his nickname as well. And he's got a BJJ black belt, but he has really, really low takedown defense and terrible cardio. He relies on a really early finish. He's kind of got a weird, Muay Thai style as well in there, and he's amazing in the clinch because of that Muay Thai. And he's quite good at range as well. Can throw really flashy kicks, and he's really fun to watch. He always puts on scraps. I do think he is a bit washed though. Obviously, after his last fights, he wasn't looking the best in them. Obviously, his last fight losing to Chidi Njokuani, that isn't he isn't a can, but it's a bad knockout to take. And for me, I do question his chin after that knockout, but he's taking on Neil Magny, so he'll be fine. Now, my prediction for this fight is Neil Magny by unanimous decision. I think Dos Santos could finish him early, but I believe if it makes it to the 2nd or 3rd round, Neil Magny can win. I believe he can take down and smother Zaleski dos Santos. And I don't think Zaleski dos Santos can pull off any submissions. Obviously, he does have a BJJ black belt, but we'll see. That's a prediction. Now, the next fighter is Nora Cornoli. Nora Cornoli's new, or decently new to the UFC, and she has a prospect. She's looking really good. Her 2 losses are to Jacqueline Cavalcante, I believe, and she's lost to her twice. So I'm not sure how she does against elite performers in the women's division. Obviously, losing to the same woman twice shows me that she kind of only fights low level fighters, and she's untested against elite fighters. She has really good Muay Thai though. She will be taking on Carol Rosa, who's a bit of a gatekeeper in the women's division. She's a volume striker and she's really experienced. She's not bad. She has a weird striking style. It doesn't always look the best, and she's really open to punches. But she's got quite a lot of pressure, and she's really aggressive. She's got another quite killer be killed style, and I'm not sure how she's a BJJ black belt. She really struggles to find a submission on opponents, even from taking the back or top position or north-south, just anything. She really struggles to find the submission, and I'm not sure how she's a BJJ black belt, but yeah. Now, this is my most unsure pick, as Nora Cornoli does have knockout power, and I do believe she's like a better boxer and a better striker, but I believe Caio Rosa can maybe take her down, maybe smother her, and I just believe it goes the distance. I believe it's going to be a really close fight, and Caio Rosa gets the win. Now, the next fighter to fight on the card is Esteban Ribovics. He had Fight of the Year last year with Daniel Zellhuber. And he's got pretty good cardio, He can go the 3 rounds with high output, but he does tend to slow down in the 3rd round. Apart from that fight with Zellhuber, obviously. His output in that round was good, but he's really high volume and he's got really good ground game, He's pretty well-rounded, however, he's really susceptible to takedowns. But if it does go to the ground, he's not rubbish, but, yeah. I do believe he has trained BJJ quite a bit, but... obviously, it's not his main thing. I do believe he's one of the best lightweight prospects, and I believe he's one of the most fun fighters to watch. He always puts on scraps. His defense is questionable, though. He often runs in, he just walks forward, so he could be susceptible to like a counter hook, a check hook, or anything like that. But he will be taking on Elves Brenner, who's, I think this is kind of a layup for Esteban Ribovics. Elves Brenner has got many underdog wins, but he's got slow and sloppy striking. He's got a BJJ background, but he has terrible takedown defense. So this fight should stay on the feet. If he takes Esteban Ribovics down, I see Esteban getting up. I don't see anything happening there. But he's got high volume and he's got great submissions. Obviously, I think he has 5 rear naked chokes. So that could lead to something, but I don't believe I see Esteban Ribovics getting submitted. But yeah, this is kind of a layup for Esteban Ribovics, I believe. But yeah, Elves Brenner isn't the worst, but yeah, we'll see. Yeah, from that you can probably tell my prediction. I've said Esteban Ribovics TKO in the 3rd round. I believe he knocks down Elves Brenner and he just finishes up with ground and pound. Elves Brenner doesn't really have many keys to victory for me. He could smother him, but I believe he's the weaker man as well. So yeah, that's my prediction. Now, the next fighter on the card is Chris Duncan, coming off that amazing underdog win, the guillotine over Jordan Verchenik. Chris Duncan always puts on banger fights. He always goes out there to scrap. But that does also mean he's really susceptible to, getting cracked. He kind of just walks forward. He has got a few submissions, a couple guillotines. And he does have decent wrestling, but he's more of just a boxer. And he's pretty one-dimensional, but his boxing is quite good, and I'd say it's really underrated. Not many people talk about it. But I'd say it's really underrated. And he just goes out there to scrap. Like, I could see him making this fight really dirty. And he'll be taking on Mateusz Rebecki, who's always in dogfights as well. He had that fight with Mateki Orobai, nearly Fight of the Year, I think. And he has decent pressure boxing, but his game really shines when he's on the ground. He has really good takedowns, really clever up against the cage as well. And he has elite wrestling and submissions. And he's got a great chin, after that fight with Mateki Orobai, where none of them got finished. Yeah, his chin's been tested and it's really good. He does have horrible cardio, however, which is pretty bad for his wrestling plan. If you want to be a wrestler, you got to have good cardio. But I'm not sure how he'll be. He'll probably slow down at the end of this fight, but, we'll see. But he does have good striking as well. I favour Chris Duncan with his striking. His striking always looks sloppy to me. It looks a bit weird. It's really unorthodox, but... it's not bad. It's not bad. He's capable of throwing good kicks as well, to the body, to the legs. So my prediction for this fight is Mateusz Rebecki by round 3 sub. Now, I did originally have Chris Duncan as winning a decision, but Chris Duncan's really susceptible to submissions, and I feel like Mateusz Rebecki's ground game is really elite and really underrated in this division. and I feel like he's just going to take Chris Duncan down, smother him. Chris Duncan might have moments on the feet, they both might, but I feel like he drops him and gets a sub. Now, in the main event, we have Tatsuro Taira, who's only got one loss in the UFC to Brandon Royval, and I do believe he's an elite flyweight contender. I think he was pretty much untested before that Royval fight, but I feel like now he could go on a really good run and maybe take the belt, to be honest. He's got great cardio and really, really elite wrestling, and he's always a busy wrestler. He looks for ground and pound, he looks for submissions. However, he's got bad striking defense and he walks forward, susceptible to like check hooks, obviously to the chin. But he has relentless takedowns. Like if you stuff one, you know he's gonna like keep trying to take you down, and he always gets it. But yeah, he has great cardio to match up with that game plan as well. You know, he can go like he went the 5 rounds with Brandon Royval fine. Like he slowed down a bit, but has really good cardio. And he's a really, really high level fighter in the flyweight division. I believe he's a top 5 level fighter in this division. As the only thing that needs improving really is his striking. It's not the best, it's a bit stiff, but it's passable, and he's got a lot of knockouts as well. Now, Hyun-Sung Park's 10-0, and I do believe him to be a great prospect in the flyweight division. However, this was supposed to be Amir Al-Bazi, and I believe Hyun-Sung Park on short notice is going to be untested. He's untested against elite opponents, and I believe Tatsuro Taira is an elite opponent. But however, Hyun-Sung Park has really aggressive kickboxing. You know, I favour his striking over Tatsuro Taira, and he has 100% takedown defense. But I don't think he's keeping that tonight, obviously. And he has a strong grappling game as well. But he often finishes his fight in the first round, and he's untested. He's only gone to the second round twice in his whole career. So, you know, if it leaves the first round, I'm favouring anyone against him, or any top 15 or top 10 opponent against him. But he's got a really similar style to Tatsuro Taira. He often looks for submissions, and he often looks for ground and pound. You know, he's not a boring smother wrestler. He's a busy wrestler. And he's got elite grappling, and his striking he's trying to improve it obviously, but his striking is better than Tatsuro Taira. You know, he's a bit more flowy, a bit less stiff. So yeah, so my prediction for the main event tonight is Tatsuro Taira round 4 knockout, a round 4 TKO. It's a bit out of left field, but I do believe if it makes it out the first or second round, Hyun-Sung Park will slow down, and Tatsuro Taira will I think he'll drop him and just ground and pound, or I believe he might take him down and ground and pound finish him. Yeah, so I'm decently excited for this card. Obviously, it's tonight. I'd like to get these videos out a lot earlier instead of predicting it on fight night. But I will say as well, if I get more than 3 predictions wrong, I'll probably do some fuck ass forfeit or something in my card review. But yeah, I plan to do a card review for this card. I'm pretty excited as it is tonight. So I don't know when I'll have that out by, but yeah. And then I'll start to do the full card, obviously early prelims and all, for next week. I believe it's Roman Dolidze versus Anthony Hernandez. So that should be good, but I'll have it out a lot earlier in the week. So yeah, I'm pretty excited for tonight. Yeah, bye.